The fourth topic. Again, there is an explanation of this in a guide for youth. One time I was asked the following question by the others who assist me. For 50 days now, and now 7 years have passed. You have asked nothing at all about this ghastly world war, which has plunged the whole world into chaos and is closely connected with the fate of the Islamic world. Nor have you been curious about it, whereas some religious and learned persons are leaving the congregation in the mosque and racing to listen to the radio. Is there some event more momentous than the war, or is it harmful in some way to be preoccupied with it? I reply to them, life's capital is very little, and the work to be done is much. There are several, one within the other like concentric circle from the center of man's heart and stomach, and that of his home and body, and that of the quarter in which he lives, and his town, and his country and land, and the globe and mankind, to the spheres of the animate being and the world. Each person have duty in each of those spheres, but most important and permanent of these are those the smallest sphere, which is less important and temporary duty may be in largest sphere. According to this analogy, the largest and smallest are in inverse proportion, but because of attractiveness of the largest sphere, it causes the person to neglect his important necessary duty in small sphere and uses him with unnecessary, trivial, peripheral matters. It destroys the capital of his life for nothing. It kills his precocious life and worthless things. Sometimes the person following curiously the struggles of the war comes to earnestly support one side. He looks favorably on their training and becomes a partner in it. To answer the first point, yes, an event more momentous than this World War, and a case more important than that of world supremacy, has been opposed over the head of everyone and especially Muslims. So that if everyone had the word and power of the Germans and English and sense as well, they would unhesitatingly spend all of it to win that single case. The case in this relying on thousands of promises and pledges of the universe owner who has disposal over it. Hundreds of thousands of most eminent of mankind and uncounted numbers of its stars and guides have anonymously given news, and some of them have actually seen that. For everyone the case has opened by which they may either win in return for belief or lose eternal properties as broad as the earth set with places and gardens. If they do not secure the documents of belief, they will lose, and his age Many are losing the case because of the plague of materialism. One of the diviners of reality and investigators of truth observed in one place that out of 40 people who died, only a few won, the others lost. Can anything take the place of that lawsuit, even rule over the whole world? We Risale-i students know it would be pure lunacy to give up the duties which will win the case and abandon the wonders lawyer who saves 90% from losing it and task which the lawyer employs use in and become involved with peripheral trivia as though we were going to remain in the world forever. We are certain that if each of us had intelligence 100 times greater than we have, we still would use it only on this task. My new brothers here in this calamity of prison, you have seen the Risale-i Nur the same as my old brothers who entered it together with me, citing them and thousands of students like them as witnesses. I say, I prove, and I proved that it is the Risale-i Nur that wins the Supreme case for 90 people out of 100 obtains for them certain affirmative belief, which is documents and warrant that has won the case for 20,000 people in 20 years. It has proceeded from the miraculousness of the all-wise Quran and is the leading lawyer at this time. Although these 18 years my enemies and the atheists and materialists have duped some numbers of government with their exceedingly cruel plots against me, and have had us sent to prison to have us done away with in the past as now. They have been able to cause harm to only two or three of the 130 pieces of equipment in the steel fortress of the Risale-i Nur. That means for those who wants to engage a lawyer, it is enough to merely to obtain it. Although fear not, the Risale-i Nur cannot be banned. With the exception of two or three, its treatises are circulating freely among the deputies serving the government of the Republic and its leaders, God willing, at some time happy governors and guards will distribute those lights to the prisoners like bread and medicine, and so make the prisoners into truly effective place of reform. The fifth topic, as is described in a guide for youth, there is no doubt that youth will depart. It will change into old age, and that as certainly as summer gives its place to autumn and winter, and day changes into evening and night. All the revealed scriptures give good news that if fleeting, transient youth is spent on good works, is chastity and within the bounds of good conduct, it will gain for the person immortal youth. If on other hand youth is spent on vice, just as murder resulting from minus anger leads to millions of minutes of imprisonment, so do unlawful pleasures of youth contain more pain than pleasure, quite apart from being called to account in the thereafter and torments of the grave, and regrets arising from their passing, and sins and the penalties suffered in this world. Every youth with sense will corroborate this from his own experience. For example, the pains of jealousy, separation, and unreciprocated love transform the partial pleasure to be found in illicit love into prison's honey. If you want to know how they end up the hospitals due to illnesses resulting from their misspent youth and in prison due to their excesses and in bar and dance of vice and the graveyard due to the distress rising from their unnourished hearts and spirits not performing their right functions. Go and ask the hospitals, prisons, bars, and graveyards more than anything. You will hear the weeping and sighs of regret and blows you have received as a penalty for abusing their youth, and their excesses and illicit pleasures. Foremost, the Quran, with numerous of its verses and all the revealed scriptures and books, give the glad tidings that if spent within bounds of moderation, youth is an agreeable, divine bounty and sweet, powerful means to good works which yield the fruit of shining, immortal youth in the hereafter. Since the reality in this, and since the bounds of licit are sufficient for enjoyment, and since an hour of unlawful pleasure leads sometimes to a punishment of 1 or 10 years imprisonment, surely it is absolutely necessary to spend the sweet bounty of youth chastely on the straight path as thanks for the bounty. The sixth topic. This consists of single brief proof of pillar of belief in God, for which there are numerous decisive proofs and explanations in many places in Risale-i Nur. In Kastamonu, a group of high school students come to me, saying, "Tell us about our Creator. Our teachers do not speak of God." I told them, "All the sciences you study continuously speak of God, and make known the Creator, with each with its own particular tongue. Do not listen to your teachers, listen to them." For example, a well equipped pharmacy with life-giving potions and cures in every jar weighed out in the precise and wondrous measures Darkness show us extremely skillful, practiced, and wise pharmacists in the same way, to the except that it is bigger than more perfect and better stocked than the pharmacy in the marketplace. The pharmacy of the globe of Earth with its living potions and medications in the jars, which are the 400,000 species of plants and animals shows and makes known to eyes that are blind even. By means of measure or scale of science or medicine that you study, the all-wise one of glory, who is the pharmacist of the mighty pharmacy of the death, earth. To take another example, a wondrous factory which weaves thousands of sorts of clothes from the simple material darkness makes no one manufacturer and skillful mechanic. In the same way, to whatever extent it is larger and more perfect than the human factory, this traveling dominatial machine known as the globe of Earth, with its hundreds of thousands of heads in each of which are hundreds of thousands of factories showed and makes known by means of measure or scale of science of engineering which you study, its manufacturer and owner. And for example, a depot, store, or shop in which have been brought together and stored up in regular and orderly fashion a thousand and one variety of previous provisions undoubtedly makes known a wondrous owner, proprietor, proprietor, and overseer of provisions and foodstuffs. In case the same way, to whatever degree it is vaster and more perfect than such a store or factory, this food store, or the most merciful one known as the globe of earth, this divine ship, this dominical depot and shop holding goods equipment, 1,000 years and carrying groups of beings requiring different foods and passing through the seasons of its journey and filling the spring with thousands of different previous provisions like the huge wagon, brings them to wretched animate creatures whose sustenance has been exhausted in winter. By means of measure of or scale of science of economics which you study, this depot of the earth makes known and makes laws its manager, organizer, and owner. And for example, let us imagine an army which consists of 400,000 nations, and each nation requires different provisions, uses different weapons, wears different uniforms, undergoes different drill, and is discharged from its duties differently. If this army and camp has a miracle working commander who and his own provides all those different nations with all different all their different provisions, weapons, uniforms, and equipment without forgetting or confusing any of them, then surely the army and camp show the commander and make him loved appreciatively in just the same way. The spring camp of the face of earth, in which every spring a newly recruited divine army of the 400,000 species of plants and animals are giving their varying uniforms, rations, weapons, training, and demol- demobilizations in utterly perfect and regularly fashioned by the single commander-in-chief who forgets or confusing not one of them. To whatever extent the spring camp or the face of earth is vaster and more perfect than that human army, by means of measure or scale of military science that you study, it makes known to the attentive and sensible its ruler, sustainer, administrator, and most holy commander, causing wonderment and acclaim, and makes him loved and prized and glorified. Another example, millions of electric lights that move and travel through the wondrous city. Their fuel and power sources never being exhausted, self-evidently make known a wonder-working craftsman, an extraordinarily tal- talented electrician who manages the electricity, makes the moving lamps, set up the power source, and brings the fuel. They cause others to congratulate and applaud him, and to love him. In just the same way, although some of the lamps of the stars is in the roof of the place of the world, in the city of the universe, if they are considered in the way that astronomy says, are 1,000 times larger than the earth and move 70 times faster than cannon ball. They do not spoil their order, nor collide with one another, nor become extinguished, nor is their fuel exhausted. According to astronomy, which you study, for our sun to continue burning, which is millions times larger than Earth and million times older, and is the lamp, and stove in one guest house, O most merciful, as merciful one, as much oil as the seas of the earth, and as much coal as its mountains, or as many lungs, as much wood as 10 earth are necessary for is not to be extinguished. And however, much greater and more perfect than this example are electric lamps of the place of world in the majestic city of the universe, which point with their fingers of light to an infinite power and sovereignty, which illuminates the sun and other lofty stars like it without oil, wood, or coal, not allowing them to be extinguished or to collide with one another, though traveling together at speed to that degree by means of measure of science of electricity, which you either study or will study. They testify to and make known the monarch, illuminator, director, and maker of mighty exhibition of universe. They make him loved, glorified, and worshipped. And for example, take a book in every line of which a whole book is finally written, and in every word of which a surah of Qurans is inscribed with fine pen, being most meaningful with all of its matters corroborating one another, and a wondrous collection showing its writer and author to be extraordinarily skillful and capable. It undoubtedly showed its writer and author together with all his perfections, and starts as clearly as daylight, and makes him known. It makes him appreciated with phrases like "What wonder God has willed," and "Blessed be God." Just the same is mighty book of universe we see with our eyes, a pen at work which writes on the face of earth, which is a single of its pages, and on the spring which is a single folio. The 300,000 plants and animal species which are like 300,000 different books, and together one within the other, without fault or error, without mixing them up or confusing them perfectly, and will complete other, and sometimes writes an ode a word like a tree, and the complete index of a book in a point like seed. However, much vaster and more perfect and meaningful than the book in the example mentioned above is this compendium of the universe and mightily embodied Quran of the world, which is infinitely full of meaning, and in every word of which are numerous instances of wisdom. So, to that degree, in accordance with the extensive measure and far-seeing vision of the natural science that you study, and the sciences of reading and writing that you have practiced at school. It makes known the inscriber and author of the book of the universe together with his infinite perfections. Proclaiming God is most great, it makes him known, uttering phrases like "Glory to be God." It describes him, acclaiming him with words like "All praise to be God." It makes him loved. Thus hundreds of other sciences like this make known the glorious Creator of the universe together with his name, each through its broad measure or scale, its particular mirror, its far-seeing eyes and surging gaze. They make known his attributes and perfections. It is in order to give instruction in this matter, which is brilliant and magnificent proof of divine unity, that the Quran of miraculous expositions teach us about our Creator most often with the verses: Sustainer of the heavens and the earth, and who created the heavens and earth. I said this to the schoolboys, and they accepted it completely, affirming it by saying, "Endless thanks to be God, for they have received an absolutely true and sacred lesson. May God be pleased with you." And I said, "Man is a living machine who is grieved with thousands of different sorrows and receives pleasure in thousands of different ways. And their despite his utter impotence, has innumerable enemies, physical and spiritual, and despite his infinite poverty, has countless needs, external and inner, and is a wretched creator, continuously suffering the blows of
Thank you for
death
listening
and
to my soft music.
separation.
Download the full length
Yet,
version at
through belief and
mysoftmusic.com.
worship, he at once becomes connected to a monarch to glorious. He finds a point of support against all his enemies and source of help for all his needs. And like everyone takes pride at the honor and rank of the Lord to whom he is attached. You can compare for yourselves how pleasant and grateful and thankful and full of pride man becomes at being connected through belief to an infinitely powerful and compassionate monarch, at entering his service through worship, and transforming for himself the announcement of the execution of the appointed hour into the papers releasing him from duty. I repeat to the calamity stricken prisoners what I said to the schoolboys. The person who recognizes him and obeys him is fortunate even if he is in prison, while the person who taunts him is wretched and a prisoner even if the resides in a place. In fact, one wronged but fortunate man said to the wretched tyrants who were executing him, "I am not being executed, but being demobilized and departing for where I shall find happiness. But I see that you are being condemned to eternal execution and therefore taking perfect revenge on you, and declaring there is no God but God. He happily gave up his spirit. Glory be unto you. We have to knowledge save that which you have taught us. Indeed, you are all knowing, all wise.